Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are back with Chad.
Hey guys.
100% glory. I need to check my teeth. I feel like I have something in my teeth. Do I?
Here.
No, I don't. Oh,
So
stop.
good.
Okay. We had such a good response from our live version of our health and fitness video that I wanted to come on and do some more because I had lots of requests to do that. I also was told by a couple people that I interrupted Chad too much, so I think these recorded versions are going to be a little bit easier, but to start off, I do want to know which one y'all prefer. We can do every other, like one recorded, one live, so on and so on, or we can do them all recorded. Just let me know down in the comment section below. So today we are going to talk about carbs and the glycemic index, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to let Chad do most of the talking. If he wants to include me, he knows how to ask me a question, but he is the guru on all of this, so I'm going to go ahead and put it over to Chad.
All right. Okay, guys. Today we're going to talk about carbohydrates. It's probably one of the biggest topics that I get questioned on a regular basis. You know, I'll always talk about the three biggies when you're trying to prepare a meal or design a meal. When I'm designing my meals, I look at my protein, my carbohydrates, and my fats. But carbohydrates, that's the one that probably gets the most attention. So I just happen to have a handy dandy
He's so good, y'all.
chalkboard. Right,
I don't know if it's gonna fit. It's not gonna fit.
Can you see me?
It's not
Can
gonna
you see
fit.
me? All right, here. Let me sit
Okay.
back here. All right. Okay.
You want me to hold it up?
I gotta see if we can see that. Okay. All right, guys. So here's what I did. It's kind of hard to. So just so you know, we're going to talk about this, but I want you to see this. But I'm going to kind of describe it. Then we'll kind of go back to it. Okay. All right. So try not to get distracted by that there.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
All right, but we'll get back to it. All right. So what we're going to discuss today is is carbohydrates, but we're going to be talking about the glycemic index. I know most of you guys have heard about it, but you probably don't understand how it works. So back when I had my fitness center a few years ago, I mean, daily, I did tons and tons of discussions on this and worked with a lot of clients, and this was a big topic. But here's kind of how I want to explain the glycemic, the the glycemic index. All carbohydrates, they're rated on a scale from 1 to 100 for the most part. And that scale is called the glycemic index. And the way I like to kind of parallel that is I talk about speed limits. At least here in the U.S., most of the time when you're driving in a medium-sized town or whatever, you know, whatchamacallit, when you're driving, the speed limit's usually about 55 miles an hour. So when I talk about carbohydrates, when you talk about that scale, you have high glycemic carbohydrates and you have low glycemic carbohydrates. Basically, in a nutshell, high glycemic carbohydrates are the bad ones. The low glycemic carbohydrates are the good ones. And when I mentioned that 55 point there, 55 miles an hour, the way I kind of equate that is when you look at carbohydrates, that glycemic index is basically telling me how fast that carbohydrate I just ate is going from my mouth down to my liver to be processed. And if you think of it in the terms of speed, a low glycemic carbohydrate or what we call a good carbohydrate is going to have a glycemic index of about 55 or less. So basically, it's getting from your mouth down to your liver or into your bloodstream, I should say, at about 55 miles an hour. We're talking about, we want to stick with carbohydrates that have a glycemic index of 55 or less, because those that are higher, as I mentioned, it's like a low glycemic carbohydrates, that glycemic carbohydrate it's getting from your, like, she interrupted me, so I've got to get back to this. All right. So it's basically, it's telling me how fast that carbohydrate is going from my mouth into my bloodstream. Now, carbohydrate that's higher, let's say it's 85 or 90, well, basically, and the way I think about it is it's going from my mouth down to my bloodstream at 90 miles an hour. So it's getting there really, really, really fast. But that's not always a good thing, and it's not a good thing usually. So, and the reason for that, it can cause very high insulin spikes. High insulin spikes can cause you to store more body fat because insulin is very, very good at what it does. To where basically if you produce a lot of insulin, the body is going to take all that insulin and it's going to grab all that sugar and it's going to pull it out and store it somewhere. So you don't want a bunch of sugar and a bunch of insulin trying to be stored by the body, or you don't want the body trying to handle it all at one time. So this is going to make sense, I promise. So here, let's get back to this chalkboard I've got.
Okay.
All right. Where's my chalk?
Right
all right. Good Crayola chalk. All right, guys, can you see this right here? Okay. This right here, let's say this is 0, 50, 100, okay? This is the glycemic index. This is how these carbs are going to be rated. This is 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hours. Okay, so let me talk about a high glycemic carbohydrate for you. We're going to compare a white potato to a sweet potato, okay? This right here, let's call it, this high glycemic carbohydrate is that is a white potato. A white potato has a glycemic index of about 90 or above, somewhere between 89 and 93. Whereas a sweet potato has a glycemic index of around 53 or so. So, if you see here, let's say right here, can you see that?
Yeah.
You just ate a white potato. So this blood is going into your, getting from your mouth to your bloodstream really, really, really fast. I'm talking there again, 89 miles an hour. And all of a sudden you have this huge spike in blood sugar, and as well as a huge spike in insulin. Insulin is very good at what it does, so it's going to pull that blood, that sugar out of your blood really fast. But what happens here, let's just draw a little line right here. And ladies, here's how I'm going to equate this.
And men, if there might be
men. And man too, but you only have a closet so big. And a lot of times, you ladies that love clothes and shoes, guys, if you're like me, I love my hats. You can only fit so many shoes, so many clothes, so many hats in your closet. If you get too many of them, where do they got to go? Probably on your bed, in your bedroom, on your bed, somewhere else, stuck in a corner. But the way the body works, it can only handle so much sugar hitting the bloodstream at one point in time. Any spillage is going to be stored as body fat. This is fat, body fat. Or grapes. It looks kind of like grapes. But grapes.
Why did you say that so weird?
Grapes. I said grapes. Grapes. But this is what looks like a flower now. You'll guess you don't know. Okay. So this is body fat, okay? All right. Whereas if you ate a sweet potato, all right, it's got a glycemic index of about 53, and basically 55 or below is what we call good carbohydrate. So now you just ate a sweet potato. As you see, it's pretty much time release. It's getting into your bloodstream little by little by little by little by little by little, all the way to over here. And right here, you haven't hit this point here to where you're having spillage. So what's happening is you're getting consistent energy for up to 2.5 to 3 hours here. Unlike a sweet white potato, you eat it, all of a sudden an hour and a half later you want to go to bed because of all that insulin that's pulled all that sugar out of your blood. Now you're in low blood sugar. But there again, this is what we're talking about right here with high glycemic carbohydrates, the bad ones, because your body can only handle so much sugar at any point in time, and you don't want a spillage. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so that's that. Now, we're going to talk about good carbs and bad carbs.
And we're only going to give you a couple examples.
Yeah.
But it's very easy just to Google glycemic index or glycemic table of food index, whatever.
Yeah. All you got to just go to Google, type in high glycemic or a glycemic index chart. Yeah, food chart.
And it'll tell you
and
all
it'll tell you.
Okay, so
let's look at some good ones here.
We brought props.
Yeah. Oatmeal. This is Kroger's. Kroger's.
I hope we're in focus because it's
I hope so. This is old-fashioned oats. Now you have old-fashioned oats and you have packaged oats or instant oats. We prefer old-fashioned oats because their glycemic index is pretty low. It's in the low 50s. And whereas a packet of oats, even low sugar, if it's instant oats, it might be around 70, it might be upper 60s. So not too bad, but
still above that line.
Yeah. So what I prefer, if I can, each morning we use old-fashioned oats. Now for me, sometimes I will mix them. I'll mix this with this. But I can handle more carbs because I'm a guy, you know, as a lady.
I only eat the old-fashioned oats.
Yeah. But if you're at a hotel somewhere and you're traveling, try to go with a low sugar. This is Quaker's maple brown sugar.
The lower sugar.
Lower sugar kind of packet. It's got about 22 grams of carbs. So, but this is, if you had to have it, this would be fine. And I'll tell you what, I will take this sometimes. If I'm on the road traveling and I need to, I'll just tear it open. I'll put this in a protein shake and drink it. But you can't let it sit too long. If you do, it's gonna be thick.
It gets all gloppy.
Yeah. But this is what we call a good carbohydrate.
Okay. You want to start with the good or the bad?
Let's do a bad one.
Okay.
All right.
These kind of go in the same.
All right. Pretzels. All right. Oh, you look at it and be like, oh wow, there's 1.5 grams of fat. Oh, it's low fat. It's got 23 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of protein. And whereas these oats are pretty close, you know.
Yeah,
it's got
27 carbs with 4 fiber, which you technically take out of the carbs, so 23 carbs.
Yeah, and 5 grams of protein. But the thing is, this has a glycemic index of about 90 or higher, whereas this has a glycemic index of about 50. Okay, see the big difference there? So this is hitting your bloodstream really fast. So you may think, oh wow, I'll eat these pretzels. No, pretzels are not really, they're not good for you. The only time I have pretzels is sometimes after a workout. There are times I want a little higher glycemic spike because I want that insulin to push that glucose into my muscle tissue, but I've worked out really hard, and that's okay at that point in time. So, but otherwise, usually we stick with low glycemic carbs. So pretzels, you want to stay away from
So
those.
basically, what he's saying also is that you can't just look at the nutrition label all the time and decide, well, this is in my calorie. It's like, goes back to what I said about when I was at Weight Watchers and we had a point system. I could have technically eaten a Snickers bar for breakfast and it would have fallen in between those points. But obviously, that's not a good choice. Yeah. So labels, while they all may look the same, the contents of the package is what really matters.
Yeah. I'm going to say, because I got 13. ADD, I'm going to say one thing real quick to you. One thing I do personally, I try to eat my carbohydrates after I've had my protein source or my vegetables, if I can, because that protein will compete against the carbohydrates
and slow it down,
and it will slow the glycemic index down even more. And then one more thing, if you have certain carbs, you can actually add some vinegar to it. Apple cider vinegar has been shown in studies to slow the glycemic index down a good bit. So I don't know how that works, but
I don't either, and I don't know that they would want to eat that with lower sugar.
Well, not that, but they could do something, you know.
All right, a couple more.
A couple more. Crackers here again. As you see here, it's low fat.
It's only 70 calories.
70 calories. And
look, it's only 9 carbs.
Yeah, no. But it's a high glycemic carbohydrate. And when you ladies, especially ladies, the older you get, the more sensitive you become to all this insulin, and these small things like that can cause you to gain weight. All right, this right here is a sweet potato, yam. What's the difference in a sweet potato?
It's not. There's not a difference.
So I don't think there is.
Is there a difference?
But this right here is a really good carb choice. It's one of my favorite carb choices. I once had a female I was working with, and her body was kind of stubborn, and she went to where she was eating like 4 or 5 of these a day instead of other carbohydrates, and it just started falling off. So, but these have a glycemic index of around 48 to 53. Again, very good.
I have to say, just because we say sweet potato does not mean you can go to Logan's Roadhouse and order a sweet potato with butter and cinnamon and whatever. What else do they put on that?
Butter.
It's just the butter, that sugar, honey butter and brown sugar. No.
Yeah.
Stevia and cinnamon is what we like to put on them, and you can mash it up together, and it's naturally sweet on its own. You don't need to add all that other stuff.
Yeah. So. And one more thing. Just so you know, on a sweet potato, there's 5.5 grams of carbohydrates per ounce. So for most ladies, if you're looking for about 30 grams of carbohydrates, you're looking at about 5.5
Which
ounces.
is not even half of this sweet potato.
Yeah.
So just so you know, it's hard. Like, we'll talk about food portions in another video, but
you would take the skin off, obviously, not count that. So,
all right, real quick.
A couple more here. That was a good one. So here's a bad. This is prunes. Prunes. They're good for you, but they're very high glycemic. And dates. They kind of look like prunes. Dates are.
Fruits are really bad containers.
Well, some
of them.
Yeah, some are low glycemic, but
like pineapple and cantaloupe and some of the ones they're really high.
Yeah, and dates are over 100, so they're skyrocketing. So I see this all the time. Oh, I ate this healthy food and it had dates in it. Yeah, dates are like that's what I would recommend to gain weight. Some good strawberries, ounce per ounce, probably have the lowest sugar of any. Per ounce. Like,
berries in general.
Yeah, berries in general. So, but you remember our last discussion about fruit. Too much fruit. Here's one more pretty good one. We're trying to give you guys some options. We were at Target today and we saw the Thomas Light 100 calories multigrain English muffins. So these are pretty good overall. So maybe you don't want to have oats. Maybe you want to have an English muffin. Throw it in there and. You might make an egg white sandwich and throw some turkey on there. There's ways to be creative, and we'll kind of explain how.
I think we're going to do some cooking videos too.
Yeah. So, but I hope that makes sense for you guys. I just want you to know that not all carbs are equal. Yeah, you could have 100 calories of a good carb and 100 calories of a bad carb, and it can make all the difference in the world as far as your outcome of your diet.
As far as where that carb is going to end up on your body.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. So
okay.
Do you think we covered it?
Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully.
Right,
and if we didn't, as always, be sure and leave a comment down below and let us know what your next video choice would be.
Yes.
I know a lot of people have been asking for menopause tips and lots of different things. And we've seen all of them and we're just taking this step by step. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and until next time.
Yep. And if you are not subscribed to her, what are you thinking?
My biggest fan.
What are you thinking? Subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. Subscribe to Mandy. Subscribe. It's invigorating to watch her.
Stop. I can't stand it when he says that word. Okay. Bye. Love y'all. Have a great day.